Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second CILT India Expo 2019. Today is the 21st of November, and I'm delighted to request our chief guest to please join us on the stage. Chief guest, Sir, General Singh, may I please request you? May I also please request our colleagues from CILT India to join us. Shri Shanti Narain ji, National Chairman, CILT India. All our other colleagues. Shri Ranadhir Reddy, CEO, KRIBHCO. So we're still waiting for Shri Prabhu to join us, but he will be late, so we'll start the program in the meantime. Who else is left to join us on the stage? Dato. Yes. May I please request Mr. Dato, Malek, to please join us on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, to start, my apologies for this slight delay. Exigencies of Parliament this morning have necessitated a slight delay to the start of our program. I am going to request the welcome address from Shri Shanti Narain ji, National Chairman, CILT India, and let's start the program. Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are a bit delayed because of this early, almost winter morning. A very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport India chapter, as well as on my own behalf. Your presence in such large numbers has given us tremendous encouragement. And we are extremely grateful to each one of you for finding the time from your onerous responsibilities to be with us here this morning. We are also delighted to have a very distinguished panel on the dais to launch the proceedings of this conference and provide a flying start to its deliberations. We are also delighted to have a very distinguished delegation from our international body, Mr. Dato Radzak, who is the president-elect of this international body, is here with us. We have no better person than Mr. Vijay Singh, the Honorable Minister for Road Transport and Highways, who had a distinguished career in the Indian Army as well, and is thoroughly acquainted with the importance of logistics to any operational organization. His insights would be of great interest to all of us. Your presence, sir, despite the Parliament being in session, is particularly gratifying. Thank you very much for making it. We are also very grateful to Mr. Dato Radzak, who is not only the president-elect of the international body, but is also chairman of the CILT Malaysia. He would be able to give us an international perspective of the functioning of the CILT body. A special mention I would also like to make of our international delegates from different sister organizations of the international body. Mr. Finbar Cleary, International Vice President and Council Member of CILT Finland. Hi. Mr. Nurlan, President CILT Kazakhstan. I think we are expecting him. and also Mr. Abdul Qadir, who is the president of CILT Bangladesh Council. A warm welcome to also Mr. Reddy, who represents the logistics giant company DP World. He will be bringing in the industry perspective for us in this initial program. Let me now share with you the rationale and the key objectives for organizing this international conference. CILT India chapter operates as a leading professional body in the field of logistics and transport in the country and acts as a knowledge disseminator as also as an independent and influential voice on all issues relating to this sector. We also represent our parent organization, the CILT International, which operates in over 100 countries and enjoys unparalleled international recognition in this vital industrial and business segment. CILT India has organized this conference to provide an authentic platform to the captains and professionals of the logistics and transport industry to share their plans as well as concerns with the policy makers in Government of India and sensitize them on the trends in the industry in India as well as globally. Over the next 2 days, we hope to have a fruitful and objective interaction between the various players in the logistics supply chain and government agencies to understand the current status and the key challenges facing the industry. Through these deliberations at the conference, we hope to develop the contours of an action plan to address the basic policy that is being processed in the country today, the National Transport Policy. We are expecting Mr. Suresh Prabhu, who is the author of this policy, and he will be joining us soon. During this conference, we are hoping that firstly, the challenges of reducing carbon footprint in the mobility sector in India, how do we deal with this challenge? Secondly, designing strategies to evolve an optimal intermodal mix which leverages the energy intensities of different modes of transport in order to minimize the overall consumption of energy at the least cost to society. Thirdly, we hope to find a way to align the overall costs of logistics of the Indian business and industry with international benchmarks to enhance their competitiveness in the international marketplace. We would need to have a reduction of nearly 6 to 7% of GDP to be in alignment with the international standards. In this inaugural session, and also the following session, we have planned to provide all of you in the audience a cockpit view of the steps being taken proactively by the Government of India to raise the Indian economy into a 5 trillion globally competitive economic powerhouse, and the role that the logistics sector can play in making this possible. We are also taking the opportunity to release 2 knowledge papers prepared by the environment research bodies like JLL and Nomura Research Institute to serve as background material for the deliberations of this conference. I would once again express our gratitude to everyone present in this wonderful audience of professionals as well as the eminent persons on the dais, and wish that your deliberations would be worthwhile. I would end here and not come between you and the distinguished panel on the dais any longer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shanti Narain. Ladies and gentlemen, a little change in the sequence of this morning's deliberations. General has to leave early, and he's in fact expected in Parliament at 11 o'clock. And therefore, with your permission, sir, I'm going to request the General himself to come in and take over and talk to us. Ladies and gentlemen, just very briefly, 42 years of distinguished service as a soldier, and the last 6-7 years in public life. General has been an extremely well-regarded professional, both in his life as a soldier and also now in his avatar as a leader of men and missions within the country's polity. May I please request you, sir, to come and give us your welcome address.
Shri Shanti Narain, Chairman, Chartered Institute for Logistics and Transport. Shri Ranadhir Reddy, Dato Radzak Malek, the President of the CILT International. Shri Prem Behl, and let me also say Suresh, Prabhu in absentia. And ladies and gentlemen who are sitting here, it's a pleasure to be amongst you. And I think early morning has made everybody rather serious. I hope all is well. I requested that I speak slightly early and take your leave only for the reason that today is the question hour for our ministry and one has to be there. So that's the reason. Let me start by saying that the logistics sector has really been growing in India. At the moment, it's approximately 160,000 crores worth, going to grow to almost 215,000 crores in next year and a half. And this is in dollars. So you have to do the multiplication factor depending on what the exchange rate is today. This growth, compatible with the way the infrastructure is moving, will make a difference. And let me say that the government also is making efforts to ensure that both the logistics sector as well as the infrastructure sector both go side by side and grow. You are all aware that logistics sector was granted the infrastructure status in 2017, and the FDI inflow in 17-18 was almost 99,000 crores. Now, this is the kind of interest, this is the kind of growth that is taking place. When we look at logistics, one thing which straightway comes to mind is, why is this important to us? It is important because you want to carry bulk and you want to make this bulk load that goes cheaper from one place to another. And therefore, what is it that is needed? You require good quality roads. You require roads and expressways which allow movement to be faster, movement to be unimpeded, and movement which will ensure that when you carry the larger loads, it is safe. You also need places where the unloading and loading can be done faster. And therefore, when you look at some of the countries outside, you do find a different structure than what has been in India for so far. In our case, it is from the point from where it is manufactured and it goes to the person who has bought that thing in a reasonable sized vehicle. And this reasonable size over the last 20 years, if you see, has been growing. When you look at some of the countries which have revolutionized their logistics sector and have put in an infrastructure which was compatible to carry that kind of loads, the container traffic is what takes the most of the luggage or most of the load. And this container is, whether it is in terms of the type of trucks that are carrying it, or it is the haulage that takes place in the fastest possible means that is available. And then you have created places where this container can be left and the truck hooks on to something else and takes it back. And the distribution of the load takes place subsequently, and then it is carted in smaller bits to the various places. Now, that is probably what we have to go to. Otherwise, things will not be of the price at which you are wanting it. And therefore, what is needed? What is needed is you need to create more highways and expressways. I'm sure you all know that today we have about 5.5 million kilometers of roads. And out of this, if we take national highways, which carry 40% or more of the heavier loads, it is only 2.29% of this 5.5 million. And hence, the inference is that this needs to grow. And let me assure you that that is the focus of the government, to ensure that we create more expressways and better highways, more kilometerage, so that the connectivity and the various corridors get linked in a shorter time frame. So today, the attention that is being given is to create straight lines through areas that have been uncharted, and therefore more greenfield roads and expressways and highways, and to create a structure which ensures that this medium which carries it does not get impeded at various places. And therefore, you will find that from 1st of December, we all have to have a fast tag so that we can have a faster movement through the various tolls that exist. And you don't have to stop and waste time and add to the pollution as well as the delay that occurs. We have to revolutionize this sector. And if we don't think ahead, then things will not matter. I'm quite sure when you look at the best practices internationally, you will find that you need to now look at the type of logistic parks that have to come up, where the large amount of material that comes can be subdivided into the loads that can be carried to the various places where they are required, whether they are required in the city, whether they are required in the factories, whether they are required elsewhere. This carriage will have to have a separate brand of or separate mode of transportation, which is short haulage, which is carries lesser loads, but is able to take these loads to those places. And therefore, we need to now think as to where this will be created. Because if you don't create it now, a time is coming that at the pace at which our cities are growing, at the pace at which we are expanding, you will not find the type of place that is required. So, my request would be from the CILT to give us recommendations on the type where the hubs where they want to get it created. Once you also look at it, we also look at it, and it's a joint effort, I'm sure we'll be able to put these hubs at the right places so that they can then distribute the large amount of material that is brought to these logistic hubs, and it can be distributed to the right places. We need what is called in the armed forces as just-in-time logistics. Things reach and they are not kept waiting for too long, because if they wait for too long, your inventories grow, you unnecessarily require large warehouses where you have to store these, and where ultimately it's a wastage of time, space and human resources. And therefore, our thought must go to it. I tend to use armed forces as an analogy for the simple reason that most of the management things started from the armed forces, the world over, not just India. And therefore, it's not too early or too late to take some of the lessons which will make our things better. We have plans where the Road, Highways and Transportation Ministry is concerned, to embark on a massive expansion of our road highways network. And this would include the Bharatmala project, the economic corridors, the port connectivity, the coastal port connectivity, all those that will boost the economy. And I'm a firm believer that it is the infrastructure sector which ultimately results in boosting the economy. And I'm quite sure you all know that the Great Depression of 1930s, it was the infrastructure sector in the US which saved US in that Great Depression period. And most of their expressways and routes, as they call it, they came up during that period. Now, of course, they have improved further. Because at that time, they put in concrete highways, which meant that they were using cement, steel, aggregate, they were using machinery, they were using manpower, and that boosted the economy. And that is what I think we should be looking at and giving a boost to our own infrastructure sector, along with logistics sector, because manufacturer to the user is what is needed in terms of the price and the time. So when you chart both these things, if you can achieve the best results in this graph, I'm sure that is what will result in better economics and better price for both on both the sides. What is needed in all this is the type of investments that are coming in. Infrastructure requires investment, and we need to have an innovative financing model than what we have been practicing so far, so that the investor is encouraged to come and invest into this. In the short period that I have been with the Ministry of Roads, Highways and Transport, one thing I have understood: roads are not a losing business. Roads are a business which for a very long term gives you profit. They can never be in loss. For the simple reason, if you make quality roads, you will put tolls. You will put tolls for a certain period of time, and then you will allow the tolling to carry on for certain additional period of time, so that whatever interest and other things that you have paid is recovered back. And therefore, you are recovering all that you are putting into it, plus more. So, roads are investments which are good investments for anybody. And that is what we are looking at, to encourage people to come and invest in the infrastructure sector, to come and invest in creating a better logistic environment, creating better facilities for logistics, so the things become much more better than what they are today. But it needs everybody's suggestion, it needs everybody's recommendation, it needs everybody's effort to create that kind of network that is needed. With these words, let me congratulate each one of our international delegates who have come here, and all the other delegates who have come here with their ideas. And it would be of interest to see at the end of this seminar the type of recommendations that you give, so that the policy makers can be put to task to follow these recommendations in the best possible manner. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. While you were speaking, I was thinking of just two elements. One is that as a soldier, you're well aware that the army, ladies and gentlemen, marches on its stomach, number one. Number two, logistics is such an important aspect of a service like the army or the armed forces that without proper logistics, you really can't balance your needs and your requirements, particularly in times of war and warfare. So thank you very much, sir, for your deliberations this morning. Well accepted, and we understand what you've been trying to tell us. Ladies and gentlemen, I have two small requests. One is that the General himself will be leaving us immediately, post his address. So may I please request Shanti Narain ji to give a presentation of a bouquet to the General, as well as the item that we have for him, which is really a nice coffee table book. Thank you, sir. Mr. Shanti, we have a certificate for the General also. We hope that he will put it up in his office. And Dato, sir, would you please present the gift to the General? Thank you so much. All right, please give the souvenir. Thank you so much, Dato. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. So we did not light the lamp as you were coming on stage, but may I please request you to light the lamp for us. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen. Yes, sir. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please accompany the General? Ladies and gentlemen, you have been a very patient audience, and I deeply appreciate your presence here this morning. Thank you so much, and thank you for not only being appreciative, but also being a patient audience. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I had switched the order this morning to suit the General's convenience, and I'm now going to request Shri Ranadhir Reddy, CEO of KRIBHCO Infrastructure Limited, to make his industry address to us, and the Dato as well as Mr. Shanti Narain will continue and come back to the stage after the General has left. And in the interim, I assume that Mr. Prabhu will also be here, so everything works in great sequential order. Thank you very much. Can I please request you?
Thank you very much. Respected President CILT, Mr. Behl, distinguished guests, and ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure for me to address this august gathering. I think it is pertinent to tell that I'm standing in for a DPW speaker, which Mr. Razwan Sumar, who could not make it because of some personal emergency, so I would be representing the DPW group as it is. So let me start. I will, because making adjustments for the delayed start, I will not, I'll keep my address very brief, and come straight to the point. $5 trillion economy. That is a dream which we all wedded to, and that is the direction we are heading to. And the logistics sector is going to be a key determinant in where we are heading to. It is explicitly understood that this journey which we would be taking from $2.7, $2.8 billion trillion economy today to $5 trillion economy 5 years later is going to ride on the wheels, wings and sails of logistics industry. Without this, without a commensurate growth and a supporting role that the logistics sectors would lend to this, they can't be, I don't think we will be ever able to reach that milestone. So in a way, the theme for which talks about rediscovering India's logistic sector's role in promoting the economy in the country could not have been more apt and more relevant more than at this time, more than any time in this day. So I think it is all for us to stop for a moment. It's a moment of introspection for us. Introspect, devise and develop an apt and adequate response that would lead us to our cherished goal. In this, I will briefly touch upon 2-3 points. One is the role of exports in the proposed $5 trillion dream which we are chasing. It is estimated that the exports should grow by about $500 billion to $1 trillion, as against $300 to $400 billion economy today on the export side. For this to happen, there has to be a very sustained development and of infrastructure, both on the hardware and software side. As we talk today, the hardware, I mean the infrastructure by roads and better rail and more efficient infrastructure that will enable us move these goods and services across the ports and back to the hinterland and to the manufacturing centers. And also the software sides wherein the policy and procedural regulations need a certain amount of relaxation. While there have been some efforts that have been made over the last few years, but then, we still are not anywhere closer to our Southeast Asian peers in terms of this sector. Leave alone even Vietnam and all, we are way behind that. So there should be a sustained campaign on the policy and procedure front, wherein we start rationalizing the procedures and policies to suit and induce a higher growth on the export side. Now, significantly, exports, they say now today, the logistics sector, the costs are about 13.5% of the GDP. And if this can be brought down to about 10% or so, then that would give us our exports, that would make exports more globally competitive. It is a thumb rule, as which generally is accepted, that a 10% reduction in the logistics cost is going to push up the export or give that kind of a competitive advantage to the exports by about 6 to 8% or so. So this has to be on, definitely, if we are talking about doubling the exports in a 5-year time frame period. So all these, we need a sustained campaign to reduce the costs on the logistics side. one more important way in which the logistics cost can be reduced is by maintaining optimal modal mix. We've been talking about optimal modal mix over the last 3 to 4 decades, and then we see that, you know, ever since independence, the rail share has always been dropping down. Today it's around 30-35%, and the road is increasing. Road is becoming increasingly effective, I would say. Not efficient, maybe, but in terms of reliability and transit times, yes, definitely. In terms of cost and cost to the nation, may not be. While it is generally accepted, and it is a well-known fact that the rail is more energy efficient, 5 to 6 times more energy efficient, and it should be the preferred mode of transport in the country. But somehow things are really not working out that way. In every conference like this, or in every forum, we say that the modal mix should, you know, which is skewed right now, should rather turn the other way around. In developed countries, it is more, it's about 25 to 35% is by road. Yeah. Let me welcome the Honorable Member of Parliament, who himself, during his earlier stint with railways, has brought out so many policy legislations that, you know, that encourage the private sector to come in, and then that has led to substantial activity in this side. So I will continue where I've taken. So this modal mix somehow is not really happening, because where in developed nations it is about road share is about 25 to 30%, and even in the US it's about 40% or so. The rail share in India is progressively going down, from which was more than 50%, more than 70%. It has come down to almost 30-35%. This is a matter of concern, and this is also a matter that, you know, which is, you know, so since we are not really able to build up this kind of an optimal mix, it is also indirectly increasing the cost of logistics in that. Because on one side we say rail is more efficient in terms of energy efficiency and all, but somehow that's not translating into the customer level. You know, the pricing front is not really reflecting that kind of these kinds of efficiencies which are accepted by us. For example, just to take the case of Indian Railways, or in our situation, there's a differential of about 1 rupee per ton kilometer between rail and road on the longer leads. While road is cheaper on the shorter leads, rail is cheaper on the longer leads. But somehow, you know, ideally, if this is the case, then when we are talking as an intermodal operator or a multimodal operator, the road should start getting aligned to shorter leads to the hubs, and then hubs to hubs, and the longer leads should be taken by the road. But that's something which we are not seeing, and which are not. Because on one side, road is improving in terms of improved machinery, improved road infrastructure, reduced toll tolerance, toll interferences and all. And rail somehow, you know, is falling back on the transit times, the reliability on the transit times. So, you know, and though it may be a little cheaper, but it is not inducing the customer to come and make a modal shift. Because in US, just to take a case for this, in US, the difference between the road and rail per ton kilometer is about 15 rupees. And in India, we have only 1 rupee. The 1 rupee is not really able to induce the customer to take this route. Rather, you see so much of, you know, all the time sensitive cargo, and then whatever the export cargo, you know, though they are spending a little more, they're preferring by road because, you know, transit is assured. It's only a 1 point door to door. And in the case that's how things are, the logistics cost to maintain a service level and reliability, the industry is having to pay a little more. So which should not be the case. Probably, I think this aspect, I think we require some kind of a regulatory framework wherein this structural correction of maintaining the differential between rail and road has to be thought of in a more serious manner, rather than otherwise, this queue is going to continue. Now, if we want to get, in fact, rather today, even in the CTOs, it's a common perception that, it is competing against road. We say that we are competing against road. Rather, road and rail should play complementary roles. They are not designed to be competitors. But the regulatory framework and the price differential which we are talking about is something which is inhibiting such a interaction, and then everybody is losing on that. So I request that, in future CILT may also take up this kind of an exercise, and some research group or a target group and a task force can be constituted which can make recommendations, so that we make a long-term structural correction on this, and then whereby the overall logistics cost is going to come down, and which will make our exports more competitive. Not just exports, the whole entire transportation scenario in the country will be much more optimally balanced, and it will be. So with this, I think I'm already getting delayed. So I would like to once again thank the honorable member for the legislations and for the new measures which he has taken during his tenure to bring in private participation and improve the fundamentals of the sector. I will thank CILT for giving me this opportunity, and then I would also like to restate and reinforce from the DP World side that we, along with our strategic investor NIIF, are committed for a long-term and concerted and committed investment into this sector, into the in the country, and then we have already got a few companies together, and then we would continue our foray, and then it would be our commitment to bring world-class infrastructure into this sector and play our little bit in this, in the India's transitioning into the next level, that is the $5 trillion economy. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Mr. Reddy, and my apologies for requesting you to be a little brief. Ladies and gentlemen, again, a formal welcome to Shri Suresh Prabhu, who was our chief guest last year. Sir, are you wanting to deliver your address now or a little later? Now, so that you are able to leave. May I please, before that, request Shanti Narain to please give him a bouquet, present a bouquet on our behalf, and felicitation for his arrival, and thank you very much for being with us. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Prabhu had made an inspiring address last year, and I'm sure he's going to do a repeat of that, so may I please request him to come up to the podium.
Good morning, friends. The great contribution made by the professionals in the transportation and logistics sector to address some of the big challenges that we are facing in the country. In terms of logistics being one of the major hurdle in realizing India's true potential for growth is commendable. So your contribution as professionals has been really wonderful, and therefore I was here only to congratulate all the professionals for the wonderful work they have done. And of course, Mr. Behl always adds icing to pudding in terms of how you make it, bringing together everybody and trying to organize this exhibition, wherein solutions available in the country or in the world would be showcased so that people can actually address the challenge of logistics. I had a good fortune of presiding over the first ever integrated logistic division that was created in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. Thanks to our Prime Minister, who realizing the need for it when we proposed it, and he actually immediately got it done. And therefore then we started preparing an integrated logistic policy. A lot of work has been done. I don't know whether my colleagues from Commerce Ministry will come and speak about it in terms of how much work Mr. Sivalingam, who is the Special Secretary, could give a complete overview of that. Because I had organized an event in which we called the World Bank and Asian Development Bank. And the idea was to prepare an integrated logistic policy and action plan. I said, now we don't have a luxury of preparing policy first and then action plan and then sometimes just relax over it. We'll rather do it everything together. And therefore, the big challenge, and everybody knows about it, I don't want to repeat it, the high cost of logistic, the turnaround time, which is so high, which makes us really uncompetitive, and many things related to that. So we are trying to address all those issues in terms of creating that integrated action plan and policy both at the same time. And that was also done in consultation with large number of stakeholders as well as with the world leaders in terms of knowing what is the challenge for logistic, because it is not necessary that we have to only confine it to us. Like we have a distinguished guest from Malaysia, and who has been honored by the government of Malaysia by calling him Dato, so which is like a great honor. He's like a elder brother. In India, I don't know, Shanti ji, whether we call him Tao or somebody like that. So we'll really have a great participation. We had a great participation from all the players of the world to make sure that it happens. So we had 2-3 components to that. One is at first phase, because let us start immediately. So the idea was, how do you optimize the use of existing infrastructure? Rather than preparing one, we'll do it. But while we already have some infrastructure in place, whether railways, by roads, by ports, by aviation, everything else. And luckily I became aviation minister, so we are also trying to work on that. So integrating and optimizing what is available on the ground. That was the first phase. The second phase was to create the proper framework, and we were talking about regulation. So all those issues were addressed incidentally. And we are actually trying to work on towards that. When I became aviation minister, the first thing I did was to prepare an cargo policy for aviation. There never air cargo policy for aviation, which I got it prepared. We launched it on 15th of January earlier this year in a global summit which was organized in Mumbai, which was attended by 87 countries. And the idea was to have a completely integrated transport policy. In fact, when as a commerce minister also, we had done agriculture export policy. When we did that, we created hubs in which agriculture product will be exported from which district. And to that again, to extrapolate it, we actually make sure that all of this will be integrated in terms of what product will be exported, so what can be airlifted, so air cargo policy will help. What can be done in terms of making sure by rail or by road, what can be done through that. And I think this was the idea. So I think over a period of time, we're trying to make a movement. Of course, I know we already lost huge amount of time. This should have been done maybe a few decades ago. But thanks to our Prime Minister, we got it created recently. And now I hope that we'll not lose the momentum and try to take it forward so that logistic could become not a hindrance, but cause of growth. Because logistic itself can bring in enormous benefit in terms of saving turnover, that's all benefit. But investment into logistic, and logistic itself can create millions of jobs. You are from DP World. So DP World is a shining example. Mr. Sultan, who is your chairman, whom I know very well, is my good friend. And we have seen how DP World has contributed significantly to improving logistics in Dubai and UAE, for that matter, generally, right? And also now they are trying to do it in many other places of the world. But I am saying that this is a great potential. Logistic itself could be the cause of growth. Logistic itself could create huge jobs. Logistic itself will bring in efficiency. And then people can devote their time into doing something constructive rather than wasting the time and going and finding out whether my consignment has gone, not gone, whether it has come, whether it is in good order or it has been stolen. All those issues can be addressed properly. Pilferages and everything else that happens, we have to waste your time dealing with so many things. Again, another thing I just remember, because we have taken an integrated view of that, we are working on DGFT, customs, all revenue authorities working on a single portal to handle international trade. So that itself will also help and hasten the process of making logistic as a driver for growth, and people can be then spared of the unnecessary hassles of dealing with issues which are really not necessary to be dealt with. It should be handled normally. So we are working on all of those issues. I hope all of that will go forward and we'll reach a stage wherein India would be a good place to do business, because one of the problem of ease of doing business is logistic. And in terms of many issues related to that. Only last point, and that is something because I see a distinguished visitor from Malaysia here. The logistic, when we are planning it, I had also told my colleagues in the ministry that time, that it's not just confined to looking at logistic in the national borders. We are now reaching a stage wherein global supply chains are reality. And if you have global supply chains, then you need global logistics. You cannot have global supply chain without global logistics anyway. And therefore, we are trying to work on corridors, going beyond India, into Central Asia, into part of Southeast Asia, and other places. So this type of logistic chains, linkages with countries where we are going to have trade routes over a period of time would be very crucial to harness the potential of India's growth story. And therefore, integrated of all this, proper vision in terms of where we want to go maybe 20 years from now, but not forgetting today's problem. And that's why I said the first issue I told my colleagues at that time was let us address immediately. Because when I was the railway minister, I had seen that railways have so much of potential, so much of land. But railways will work in silos as opposed to others. Of course, it's a different matter. The railways, within railways also have silos. That's a different matter. But railways and other ministries will not speak to each other. So I think we should try to work together. And I am sure the railway officers are one of the finest officers I have personally dealt with. And therefore I can tell you with confidence, their ability, professional competence is immense. The systems are the problem. So we have to break the systems to make, also allow that their potential also can grow faster. So I really look forward to this professional body taking a lead and trying to make sure it happens. Always I believe, being a professional myself, that professionals can handle any job better rather than politicizing it. And therefore I really congratulate you. Shanti Bhushanji, you have been daring this. He was a member of our traffic, and since then I know him for many, many years. And we have worked together along with his other friend and colleague, Mr. Kumar, who was a former cabinet secretary. And they run a very good institution called IC Center for Governance, wherein we work on governance issues. So I think we all wish you all the best. I was very happy to come here because I could meet so many of my old friends. Ragini is sitting there and many others. So I really look forward to working with all of you. All the best to you. Anything I can do. And I didn't realize Mr. Garg, my other colleague and friend, which I can see so many now that sitting next to you, so many of my friends are here. So I think it's like from going for a marriage where you can meet so many people at the same time. So all the best to you. Congratulations. I'm sorry I told you I have to speak early because I have to go to the parliament which starts at 11 o'clock. I'm already late. Thank you.
So thank you for your thought leadership as always. And I know that Shanti Narain wants to say a few words, so I'm going to hand over the mic to him.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just seen the breadth of vision that Mr. Suresh Prabhu has given to you about what he wants to do in this country on logistics. I would like to tell you a small background because this vision that he has shared with you, he was the author of the National Transport Policy, which is now under active consideration of the Government of India. And he is the person who was looking at a mechanism by which this policy could be operationalized. And he was therefore instrumental in setting up this logistics division in the Ministry of Commerce and Industries. my suggestion, sir, to you, now that you are in a very pivotal position, the need is now that this logistics division in the Ministry of Commerce and Industries should be the secretariat for a high-level body, either in the Cabinet Secretariat or in the PMO itself. Because what is required to operationalize this very wonderful policy document that you have prepared is coordination between all the different ministries in the government. And that machinery cannot be activated unless it is at that apex level. So I thought I'll share this thought with you, because you are the person who has designed the vision, you have operationalized it. The first requirement for coordination was to create a logistics division, which was done in the Commerce Ministry. Now it needs to be upgraded, and at the apex level, certain bodies should be created so that every ministry is in alignment with the national document. Thank you very much, sir. And
Thank you,
for
sir.
making
And
this.
on your behalf, since Suresh ji is going to continue to be a thought leader as well as a political leader in the country, Suresh ji, a little request for you, sir. On behalf of CILT, may I please request you to be an honorary life member of CILT India. Thank you, sir. Before you leave, we have a small presentation for you, and I'd like to be able to request both Dato Radzak as well as Shanti ji to please make the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, please thank with a nice loud round of clapping for Mr. Suresh Prabhu. I've always considered him to be a dynamic person, and he continues to display that dynamism. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ji. He has many facets to his personality. Not only is he a thought leader, but he's also an accountant. He works very hard on environment and water and solar technologies, and he has a vast array of interests. Thank you, sir. He will now be leaving, but I'm going to request Dato to remain on stage. Dato, Radzak, sir, please remain on stage. We're going to give you the microphone if you like at your chair, or if you want to come here, please come and make a few words. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep seated.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is my welcome address from CILT International. Mr. Shri, Shanti, Narain, of course, Honorable Sri Suresh Prabhu. 2 years ago, I came here. He was the Minister of Commerce in industry. Yeah. But the way that he's saying to you, to the public this morning, you know, his passion and his attitude and motivation are still very high. And he even asked me to come and see him at 5 p.m. today. So I have to go. I also would like to express a very good morning to Mr. Finbar Cleary, International Vice President, and you are from CILT Island. Thank you for coming. Mr. Nolan, President of CILT Kazakhstan. Mr. Kadir Moidin, President of CILT Bangladesh. As on behalf of CILT International, Technologies Haja Zawiya, Women Logistics Chairperson, Vice Global Chairperson, Southeast Asia, and also Wilayah Chairperson from Malaysia. For your information, CILT International and the whole CILT around the world is celebrating our 100 years anniversary. This year, 2019, it was founded in 1919 at the Savoy Hotel in London, and we had our 100 years celebration at the same hotel. That was on the 3rd of November when you are talking about 100 years achievement, we cannot deny that how much happy and proud we are that we have survived and growing from time to time, from phase to phase, and from level to level until we are what we are here today. And we have actually successfully lead the organization and making possible that organization serve the logistic and transport and supply chain industry all over the world. But what is next after 100 years? It is not the end for us after 100 years surviving in this world, but we are looking at what is next for 100 years to come. And for this, we are looking forward to set up a new institute for the new era. CILT will be structurally, organizationally, but will never deviate our intention, our main principle, our attitude, and our culture that will remain steadfast, that will remain strong forever, but the way, the style, the approach, there are some modification because we wanted to be relevant for the next 100 years. Why? Because what was 100 years ago, or even 50 or 20 years ago, is not the same what it is now. And what more, coming 20 years in the future, it will be totally different from what we have. And the future for us, in terms of digitization and technology, will always come at the wee hour. And it always come and attack us during the time that we are not aware that something will be going on. IR 4.0 has suffered taxi drivers with the drones, with the Uberizations, everywhere. Artificial intelligence and IoT is making a lot of people out of job now. Forklift driver is losing their, what do we call, corporate cents, salary monthly because the presence of robotic in some warehouse and all that. So 100 years to come is something that is very great, and we have to be very, very cautious about it. And we hope that for us to remain relevant to the industry and to the society and to the nation and to the fraternity, that we have to find a way to be a new institute in the new era. Now, one of the things that we are looking, apart from digitization and all that, next year when I take office as president of CILT International, two things that I want to give some kind of focus. One is the International Business Forum. What I'm going to do is, International Business Forum is going to be a platform where all CILT entrepreneurs all over the world can subscribe to it, and we'll invite you to come to a place where you think it is possible for you to expand your business all over the world. It is about networking, it is about matchmaking, it's about showing case what you have so that the rest of the CILT members in other parts of the world can benefit. We are going to try the first, by the way, the chairman for the, or the leader for the International Business Forum is none other than Finn Barclay from Ireland. He's the IVP, and he's the chairman. And our first try will be Africa Forum in March next year. We were told that Africa is gearing towards it. There are a lot of companies that is coming to Ghana from all over Africa. They try to showcase and also to get better understanding among businessmen in Africa. I have got few from Southeast Asia coming to Ghana to participate because they have got a lot of things to sell if it is possible for them, to create their presence in Africa and all that. So why don't we do? Apart from all this, while we are talking about survival of CILT, the way forward for CILT and all that, we also don't want to forget. We are good. We are good. We are really, I'm not saying complacent, but we are good in education because CILT is one education that we can offer to the young generation all over the world. But for entrepreneurs, if we can do it as a testing ground in Africa, then next year, 2020 International Convention for CILT in October 2020 in Perth, Australia, will launch it in a bigger scales and all that. Now let us talk about India. From the facts that I read about logistics, transport, and supply chains, there are 22 million logisticians, transporters, transport planners, and all those who are involved. 22 million is almost like, the population of Malaysia. We have a population of 30 million and 22 million are logistics people. That's how big India is. And if you look at the development of the world today, the economy is moving east, and India and China will be the two strong countries who will going to control the economy of the world. That is, with digitizations and IR 4.0, I think the time is becoming faster and faster to see that India and China are going to be the powerhouse of the world. And even today, if you look at the statistic, India has beat China in terms of population. So the economy is coming here, and we want to see that CILT India is playing their role. And if I've been telling CILT India, if only you from 22 million logisticians that is working actively in the industry, if CILT can get 0.001%, you are going to get about 200,000 CILT members. And if you get 200,000 CILT members, you are the powerhouse of CILT, and everybody is looking at you. So this is not a joke. You better do it, and it is hard work, but you can understand the importance of CILT to the world. So with this, introductory speech from CILT, once again, I would like to thank CILT India, especially you. You are the organizer. This is my second time coming. I've got a lot to speak, for being a moderator later in the day and all that. So that's about all that I say. Thank you very much, and look for a good deliberation for today and tomorrow. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have two knowledge papers that I'd like to request the distinguished members on the stage to release. The first knowledge paper, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to urge you all to get your copies as well, has been prepared by JLL, and the title is India, the Evolution of Integrated Logistics. May I please request the staff to bring the knowledge paper onto the stage. First to Dato, elder brother. Two more copies, please. Chandranath ji and also. Yes, and we've got Chandranath Day, Senior Director and Head Industrial Consulting and Supply Chain. Would you please come onto the stage? As well as Sittarasu, Director and Head Airport and Global Infrastructure for GLNL. Ladies and gentlemen, personal copies will be available to you. So this is the release of a knowledge paper. And I must say that I'm very impressed with the documentation that has been provided. There's a lot of information in a very small compendium. A lot of good documentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we have another presentation out here, knowledge paper, which has been prepared by Nomura Research Institute, NRI, and the subject is Logistics and Transportation in India, the Present and the Future. Also, another very well laid out compendium of information. And I have to request Shri Ashim Sharma to join us, please. The other two gentlemen from JLL may please stay on the stage. Thank you, Ashim. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. May I please request you three gentlemen to also come and sit. Can we get 2 chairs for them? Please stay on the stage, and I'm going to take a few minutes to wrap up only. Get us 2 chairs, and one of you can come and take my seat as well. Ladies and gentlemen, I must again thank you for being a patient audience. We have considerably overrun our time. The next session is already considerably delayed. I'm going to request you to take a 10 or a 12-minute recess, refresh yourselves, have a quick cup of tea or coffee, and then please try to come back here as soon as possible so that we can make up some time. I have a very small vote of thanks to give, and I'm going to make it briefer as much as I can. First of all, I'd like to thank the 2 keynote presentations that were made by our chief guest this morning, General Dr. V.K. Singh, the Honorable Minister of State for Road Transport and Highways, and I thought he spoke quite eloquently and well. I'd like to be able to thank Suresh Prabhuji, Honorable Member of Parliament, who was here with us last year and has been with us again this year. I'd also like to thank him, and we will take this forward, that he has agreed to be an honorary life member of CILT, and I can only think of this as being a very good thing for CILT, because he is a mover and a shaker as far as I am concerned. I would thank in advance Shri Sivasalam, Special Secretary Logistics. He will be here with us at some point of time during the deliberations. We have Shri Anand Sarup, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry. He will also be with us, and I'd like to thank him as well. We've had support from the Commerce and Industry Ministry, Railways, Road Transport and Highways, Shipping, and Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and I need to thank them for their support. We've had supporting events and partners, DFCCIL, who is the lanyard partner, IOCL and Concor, who are associate partners, DP World, and we've already had a presentation by them this morning, and they've been the prime logistics partner. Obviously, it's important for us to welcome and thank Mr. Radzak, President of CILT International, President-elect, for his presence here again this year. Thank you very much. A special mention to both the knowledge partners this morning on the stage, and we have another knowledge partner who will be making his presentation to us later. Thank you so much. That is JLL, NRI, and ISM. Speakers, delegates, exhibitors, visitors from India and overseas, your presence is essential. Thank you extremely. I'm cutting short everything else. I'd like to thank Shri Shanti Narain ji, Chairman, CILT India. Your support and your direction is invaluable, sir, and I hope that we will continue to receive the benefit of your support as well as advice as we move forward. I'd like to also mention Shri Sanjeev Garg. Without his help, a lot of the work that we've been able to put together would not have happened, and I'd like to thank him. I'd also like to thank the entire team of CILT India. They've done a tremendous amount of background work to make this a successful event. and of course my own managers and my own staff at EIG who've been responsible for all the intricate details. With that, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to thank you all for being here with us this morning. Again, as I said, I'd like to be able to request you to come back again as soon as possible. We'd like to start. Before we end this particular session, we've got a ribbon cutting to do outside, sir, and I'd like to request all of you to please join us so that we cut the ribbon and formally inaugurate this event. Thank you very much.